Brigadier General Military Advisor to NATO Newsmax contributor General Blaine Holt. Happy Monday to you, sir. So a headline from the Wall Street Journal saying Ukraine is the West's war now, showing weakness to President Putin only invites him to go further and further. And Beijing is watching closely to see the price Russia pays or the reward it receives for its aggression. Your reaction to this?
Just more war drums. Boy, they don't stop. A year later, and nearly $200 billion of commitments, and Senator McConnell making good on his statement that there is no higher priority in the United States than the Ukraine war. You know, we need to keep supporting the Ukrainians the best we can. We need to do it within the margins of our ability to do so logistically and financially. But I find it very curious, extremely curious, that the Chinese can fly spy balloons menacingly over our nation and invade our nation with fentanyl and spies, and that doesn't get our blood going. But the administration and Senator McConnell see them selling weapons to Russia. Boy, it's on, and that is unacceptable.
Yeah,
unacceptable.
That Wall Street Journal article also said what's happening in Europe today could happen in Asia tomorrow. And we think about what's going on in Ukraine. We can't forget about Taiwan and the threat that poses. This interesting, General, this coming from the California Globe over the weekend. So we know, and we talked about this Friday, basically President Xi in China laid out a 12-point plan for peace in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine. According to this article, which is written by Rick Grinnell, former DNI, he said that Putin and Zelensky are both interested in sitting down with the Chinese to go over this. Do you buy that?
Well, so here's the thing. It's a really brilliant propaganda-style move on the Chinese part. If we've seen zero interest in diplomatic outcomes this year, then China gets ahead of us in the rhetoric, and they want to put themselves out there as some sort of peacemaker on a piece of paper that's ridiculous. I mean, the point one says, respect all sovereignty. Okay, that means Russia has to leave immediately. But now the surprise surprised me was President Zelensky and Putin seem to be saying, yeah, let's get to that table. What have we been talking about for a year now? And if they do go to that table, and if some agreement gets fashioned, oh, wow, Jake Sullivan and the team, please just resign. Amazing.
Yeah, speaking of Jake Sullivan, here is what he had to say about China's supply Russia with weapons. Take a listen.
What you've heard from Secretary of State, you've heard from other officials in the administration, and you just heard from President Biden, which is we have at this point not seen them take the step of providing weapons to Russia for purposes of the war in Ukraine. We are watching closely. We know they haven't taken it off the table, and we are sending a clear message, as are our European allies, that this would be a real mistake because those weapons would be used to bombard cities and kill civilians.
All right, General, are we sending a clear message?
No. The clear message would be we're going to reevaluate the relationship because you're killing 100,000 Americans a year. Clear message would be you're taking seas on the high seas that don't belong to you. The clear message would be is your Belt and Road Initiative is basically extorting money from the entire world.
Right.
And these are unacceptable things. That's the clear message. What we want is our cake and eating it too, and it's ridiculous.
Good point. General, just about 20 seconds. And we saw this a little bit on Friday, and we haven't talked about this yet. But do you expect candidates, people that want to run for president in 2024, to start making their position on this whole war a little bit more clear?
What I would expect is in some future administration, a candidate should reasonably stand up and say, here are the elements of strategy I would consider as I stepped into that role. This is a very troubling war. It's the war we have now, not the one we could have deterred a year ago. And now we have to come together and figure out how we're going to bring this to a conclusion so that the world doesn't constantly look at nuclear threats in World War III.
Yeah, you think about Nixon in '68, and he used Vietnam to his advantage. Ultimately, it got him elected, helped get him elected. It's going to be interesting to see if this war goes on long enough to become a part of the 2024 campaign. I think that's a real possibility.
Oh, I think it will.
Vivek
Absolutely.
Ramaswamy was talking about it Friday. So was Nikki Haley last week.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for that. General Holt, we'll pick this up again soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. Good news,
Alex,
both.
over to you.